Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hi everyone, and welcome to Room by Room, the home organisation Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We're champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element, with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Gabriella Yastra, coming to you from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's begin.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the show. While sanitation in the home might be something many of us take for granted, today we are going to dive deeper into the specifics of decentralized water systems, how they work, their benefits, and their disadvantages. To guide us in this exploration is Dr. Santiago Septien Stringel, who obtained a chemical engineering degree both at bachelor's and master's levels, with a specialization in wastewater treatment. He went on to pursue his professional career with a PhD on biomass gasification in 2011 and a postdoctorate in the same domain for 2 more years in French research institutes. During this period, he acquired an expertise in thermochemical processes and biofuels. In 2014, he joined the WASH R&D Centre at the University of KwaZulu-Natal to supervise master research projects founded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Water Research Commission. Currently, his focus is leading research related to decentralized sanitation treatment systems, supporting and advising sanitation practitioners, and supervising undergraduate and postgraduate students. So with this wealth of knowledge, I'm really excited to get into this episode. So welcome to the show, Santiago.
Thanks a lot for your invitation. Thanks a lot.
No worries. So to get us started, can you tell us a bit about your background? What compelled you to pursue sustainability engineering, and what led you to your field now?
Yes, I always have been interested in engineering science, in science in general. I thought when I was doing my studies when I was a kid, I always was leaning towards what is about science and engineering. Well, science, I was very interested in science, and then all that brought me to chemical engineering. I was very step by step. I was deciding in the as the opportunity arises. So I never had and I wanted to do that when I was, for example, 18 years old. I would never imagine I will be working on that. I was just thinking in the next step, and then when I took the decision for the next step. So that brought me that from high school, I entered into university. After thinking a lot, I decided to, because science, there are many disciplines where you can go. I finished in chemical engineering, and little by little start to be attracted by environmental engineering, like all what is related to waste. I always have like this concern for environment, so I wanted to maybe that my work dedicated to this topic. So I start to study. I enter a specialty in studies about wastewater treatment, and then brought me after a PhD. That's still in the environment sector, which is renewable energies. I was working at the technology to transform, to produce biofuel from biomass waste, and from there, in France, as you said, and then this opportunity brought me to South Africa to work in sanitation and more decentralized systems. So nowadays, I just starting also a new adventure lately since last year, sanitation in emergency context. So more in the humanitarian context, working with the IOM, as a consultant for the International Organizations for Migration, which is a United Nations agency.
Interesting. That is such a fascinating journey, and it seems like you really took it step by step and just got more and more interested in what you're pursuing now. So thank you for sharing your journey. To introduce us just a little bit to today's topic, can you explain in simple terms what is a decentralized water system?
Well, sure. So the centralized water system is very simple to explain. It's something that is not related to the sewage. As the name says, it's decentralized, which, I think it's easier if I start explaining what is a centralized system.
Yeah.
And then, so a centralized system is like, for example, in places in developed countries, most of the countries, for example, like Australia or other, all the houses are linked and have a sewage network, and all the waste from the households streams, which all the water that comes from the toilets, from the taps, all that finish in in um, in the sewage, and the sewage is conveying that waste to wastewater treatment plant because it's a water very polluted. Has a they have our excreta. We take we wash ourselves with these waters with dirt, has our dirtiness. Um, Also the what we used to wash plates, dishes, wash clothes. So there's dirty water. So this dirty water cannot be rejected into the environment, has to be treated. So we send it to um, typically in a centralized system, we have to send it to a wastewater treatment plant, where they have different processes where the water is going to be cleaned progressively until reaching enough standards to be discharged into the environment. But usually, sometimes these centralized systems relies on kilometers and kilometers and kilometers of sewage lines. So in many areas of the world and many countries, it's not physically possible to have so long sewage networks, or there is no enough money because it's very expensive to the costs are exorbitant to install these sewage lines. So sometimes the there is either small treatment plant that it's with a very short sewage line network. So it's very localized, very short. It doesn't go kilometers and kilometers, but maybe 1 kilometer or a few kilometers. So it's not as extensive as in a centralized system. Or it can be toilets that where our excreta is going to be stored. So, for example, I don't know, you have heard about pit latrine, septic tanks, dry toilets. All these toilets will store our excreta. And also there are systems that treat our excreta in situ. So nowadays there are many groups, institutions that are developing technologies that can treat our waste in the place where we do our excreta. The toilet is going to be linked to processes that are like a washing machine is going to clean the excreta. So they have different levels of decentralization. From the decentralized wastewater treatment plant, where houses, yes, there is a very short sewage network until toilets where our excreta is going to be stored, and and or toilets where our excreta is even going to be treated. Just to note something that I would like to add is like in the toilets where the excreta is stored, at some point they're going to get full because we're using, and it's just a tank or a pit. So at some point it's going to get full. So at that point, this is what is called fecal sludge management. So there's going to be a chain of services to try to empty your tank, transport to a fecal sludge treatment plant, treat it, and try to either safely dispose it once all the contaminants and hazards can be removed, or either they're going to be resource recovery. That is we're going to try to get some useful resources like energy, like clean water, like biofuel. There are many options, fertilizer. So there are many options of resource recovery or reuse. So it's like a recycling. We try to recycle it. So it's the other disposal, or if it's possible to just reuse it, recycle it.
Interesting. That's a great introduction to what we'll be talking about, because I'm sure some people, when they hear, centralized water system, that phrase, they might not realize what that actually means. And now we know what we're talking about when we're talking about decentralized ones as well. So before I go any further with this topic, we'd like to just get to know you a little bit better. So this is Have You Met Santiago? Firstly, what do you like to do in your spare time?
Well, in my spare time, I spend a lot of time in front of, most of the time, a lot of the computer. So I want to do the opposite. So to be try to be active. So I like sport. I think that's also in my family. Also, there's like they like to do sports. So I think I like to move, to do run. I like a lot of also the nature. So I like to do sports that in the nature. So like rock climbing, hiking, bicycle, open air sport, but also I enjoy swimming. I also have fun playing soccer. Have a lot of fun playing soccer. So there's a lot of sport I try to move. Also, there's more relaxing yoga or stretching, so just workout. So, but yes, I try to do something physical, especially the days I work a lot in the computer. I try to move my body.
Absolutely. Great answer. And do you have a book or a movie that you've enjoyed recently that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I have there's a few books. A couple of books I have read in the last year. I have not had too much time lately to read or see movies. But yes, I like the. I like two books. I will mention two books. One book is *Sapiens*. It's a Yuval. I forget the name. Yuval. It's his first name, but it's *Sapiens*, the history of humanity. A little from the
Yes. Yeah.
from the. I see that you read it. I can see that you also read it.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it, but I have heard of it. Yeah.
I hate your face. Yes, in your face.
I think it's quite popular. Yeah.
It's very popular. It's very popular. I was recommended, and I really also recommend it. It's very interesting. It's a history because it's the history of humanity from the caveman until now, and even as a projections on the future, how they based on the actual trends, how humanity can evolve. So it's very interesting to see, and you really have a view of humanity, interesting view of humanity. Changes your perspective, like change completely your perspective of humanity. I like there's opinions. The author gives a lot of opinions, but I think their opinions are well based, and some might disagree, but then some also I agree. So like always, but I really enjoy that book. I really learned a lot and changed a little my perspective about the civilization, our actual civilization.
Yeah. Civilization, right?
And the risks. And then also another book that I enjoyed was one about. I live in South Africa, so it was very South African book. The context of South Africa, it's about a guy that used to. He has a small animal reserve. He's a manager of a small owner of a small animal reserve, private, and they offer him to host some elephants, problematic elephants that if he doesn't host, they're going to kill them. And and during that book shows how he struggled at the beginning to integrate those elephants that wanted to escape, etc. I don't want to spoiler too much, but it was problematic. And then little by little, he started to make friendship with the elephants, literally friendship with elephants, and communicate with them. And finally, he managed to accept their reserve as their home. So it's a very interesting. It's a nice book. It's a very nice book.
That's lovely.
and
That's really lovely.
it's a real history. So the guy is an
Oh,
autobiography book.
cool. That's really cool. I like the sound of that book. My next question for you is, are you listening to any podcasts at the moment?
Yes, am listening a podcast. I'm not like I sit and listen to podcast. Usually, what I do is I'm driving or washing dishes
Yes.
or something. I put a podcast. I before I used to put music, but now I put podcast. I think many people do that now, especially with YouTube. And there's a podcast that I like it called the Wild Project. Well, the name is in English, but in reality it's a Spanish guy. From Spain, from Catalonia, and he invited many people, like famous or not as famous, but very that are very knowledgeable in a topic. Very maybe that's as you do, like very knowledgeable in a topic, and the host ask him a lot of questions and he answers. Can be very long though, like 3-4 hours, not just some parts. And he has a lot of shows, so it's impossible, literally impossible to check all his podcasts. But I just try to. In video, you have the individual topics with individual speakers, and they talk about everything, really everything. And the questions are interesting. The communication is nice. It's convivial. It's fun. Uh, some guys that survival, some guys that adventure guys that go to the to the places more dangerous in the world uh, to visit, to biologists to explain animal behavior, to soccer specialists, everything, literally everything. Even they invited a guy that worked for like a guy keeping safe, a politician, uh, bodyguard. So sorry, for bodyguard
Oh,
from a
bodyguard.
politician in Mexico that can be quite tough sometimes for the politicians.
Yeah.
Uh, he was ex-military, so they have a lot of very, very different. So you realize each person has a world. I like because each person has a world. It's a world, and that podcast they share their world, so you can see different worlds and nice guys that love to survival things. So I enjoyed all of that show.
Wow, that it sounds really varied. That sounds really interesting. I can't believe how long the episodes are, but I can also understand, as you say, they're sharing their whole world. My next question for you, though, is: do you have a role model? This could either be a role model in your personal life or in your professional life.
I don't really have roles models, I think, but I try to get in learn from people. So I don't have a particular person that
Hmm.
this is my role model. I want to be like him. Uh, but there was about somebody that I respect, and I say I like. For example, this guy is very talented on that, and I try to observe and learn um, from him. So I try to learn from some people that knows more than me, that have a mm, that can behave in some circumstances better or things like this. Try to learn about them. So I don't have cannot say you have the. So I think I have a role model, but a role model is a combination of many people. Like
Yeah,
many
absolutely.
people. It's not
And
like a one
finally,
person.
yeah, no one person, just traits from lots of different people, I
Yes,
suppose.
traits of person also will be a hybrid person. Hybrid person. But yes, definitely there's not somebody that I want to be exactly like he.
No.
There is nobody.
Okay. So, finally, is there a course or a class that has inspired you? Maybe one that you've taught or maybe one that you've taken?
Um, well, I have many. I mean, the happy speakers. I think in the courses sometimes it has to be the speakers that inspires you. Like,
Mm.
I think that being. I mean, I have been in all the academic. I was from kindergarten to masters, PhD. So I have a lot of lecturers and teachers during all these
Mm. Of
courses
course.
during this course. Definitely, it's not. I learned that it's not a topic, but the speak. Well, the topic also can be play a role, but but also the speaker. So there have been speakers that that have really inspired me. Like
Yeah,
now, I don't think in a
absolutely.
topic. I have some people in mind, but I don't really have a topic. I think there are many topics that I really enjoyed a lot. And some others that really I wanted it finished early or I was not paying attention. But sometimes there are topics very interesting with a very bad lecture, and also that was.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the lecturer
Or,
can really, really help to
of course,
make. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't have one in mind in this moment. So I cannot give you someone concrete.
Yeah. Like sometimes a lecturer can really make a subject really interesting, even if it's something that you would struggle with or usually find boring. I find that the teachers really help a lot. And similarly, the teachers can really make it worse if they're not very engaging. So I do find that interesting.
Exactly. So, but that's all.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I don't have anything in mind. I would like to tell you
Yeah.
a history, but I don't have anything in mind.
That's okay. So now we're going to dive into our questions for our topic today. And firstly, we just have to get some definitions out of the way. So for this podcast, how would you define home organization?
Well, let's for this podcast, I would say that home organization is how a house, how the items in a house, the things that um, are organized. So in a house we have different elements and that can be arranged in a way or another way. So that's what I call home organization. The house has different elements and how these elements are organized. And that's, I think, between different homes, it changes.
Yeah.
So sanitation fits perfectly here. Is one of these elements.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that there's a relationship between sanitation and home organization then?
Well, I think it's yes, it's very important. I think it's key.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's key, but for us, it's something that should be included. But I have to tell that there are houses in the world that they have no toilets, so homes that
Mm,
don't have toilets or sanitation can happen. So, for example, in even here in South Africa, there are informal settlements where the toilet people have to go out their house to go to a toilet that's outside. It's something very common in in areas of low income. So yes, it's
yeah.
yes, there is I think it's we don't realize it because maybe in my house we have a sanitation, and in your house you have sanitation, uh, but it's something that it's a luxury. We don't realize it because we're
Yeah.
born with that and think it's a house has to have that. But we have to say that many millions of people in this planet, those for them is not the same case.
Yeah. And how would you define sanitation?
Well, sanitation is how the definition of sanitation is how we treat the human waste, all the chains, the management of treating the human waste in order to not pollute to the environment, to protect public health, uh, to protect the water resources. So this prevent soil contamination. All these practices that is going to be that the human waste. That when I say human waste, is mostly our excreta, but also could be the the result from our activities. All the usually sanitation in some countries, sanitation only includes human excreta and in water. So all the water waste that come from the human activities could be in the household when you wash your clothes, when you wash your dishes, but also can be industrial. All the for to make that this the computer that is in front of me, or to make any product, any of our clothes in the factories, there's going to be a use of water, and it's going to be a water that's going to be um, it's going to be dirty at the end. But usually sanitation is there's not like it vary from person to person, from regions to regions. In some parts, Sanitation includes the wastewater from industries. It even includes solid waste. So for them, solid waste is part of sanitation, but in some other parts, no. In some other parts, sanitation only includes what comes from the household or residential areas. So that means that the what comes from the home organization.
Interesting.
So yes, the definition of sanitation is very wide, but I think for this podcast, let's go for me, especially for me, when I talk about sanitation, what my definition is like that sanitation is all this service delivery to make safe to treat our waste, that comes from the homes or residential areas or commercial areas, but not in the.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that definition. It's interesting to know how sometimes people's definitions are different and sometimes how they're different across the world as well. So, what would you say is the importance of having sanitation systems in the home?
Very important. Very, very important. As I told you in my previous question, sanitation is the human waste, the excreta, basically. So, yes, we are humans. So, by humans, one of the characteristics of humans, we need food and need water. And because we need to for our physiological needs. But then there's going to be some waste from the food. We're not going to use all what we're intaking. There's going to be some waste, and which is the feces, the fecal matter. And then there's going to be liquid part that also is not. We're going to use some for the body, some part for the body functioning, but there's going to be some residue. So like the urine. So we're having people urinate from 2 to 3 liters of urine per day. Defecates maybe 1 or 2 times per day with 100, 200, 300 grams. So we need a place where to put this waste safely. Private place. We like to do in a private place, comfortable place. So. And then we wanted that so that's very important in home because as I told you, in our home, it's a very important element. We don't realize it, but having a toilet in our house is a luxury that we just want to go to make a pee. We just go to another room, and that would be our need or we defecate. Whereas that's a very important element.
Absolutely.
That many people don't have it, unfortunately.
Yes. So on to decentralized water systems. What advantages do decentralized water systems have that our usual water supply may not?
The centralized systems compared to centralized systems. First of all is the cost. Cost is one of the major drivers. That's why many countries or municipalities in the world can't afford it, and they have to rely on more decentralized administration. Because building all the sewage network infrastructure is expensive. I mean, it's kilometers and kilometers of and you have to dig and put material. It's very, very expensive. And after that, you have to maintain that. And because with that, there's going to be leaks. And you have to find that point of leak. And because it's a very long network, you don't know where is exactly the leak. So you have to start to try to find the leak, and it's going to spend more money and then repair it. And the centralized wastewater treatment plants also, they are big and they have to be designed to receiving big amounts of liquid, and so there's also an extra cost. So everything adds to the bill, and that becomes very expensive. And decentralized systems can offer they are cheaper and also more flexibility. Like if there is a problem, you can repair it locally faster. So I think that's and that's why many countries developing in areas where there is no sewage network, they really consider using the centralized systems because it's cheaper, rather than start to build a whole sewerage system. They consider better to install centralized systems because it's going to be more affordable.
Yeah. And what about an environmental impact? In what ways do decentralized systems contribute to sustainability and environmental protection?
Well, I cannot say I don't want to talk about the centralized systems if they are
Mm.
well managed, that will not contaminate. Actually, you also can get resources from the wastewater treatment systems if in the centralized wastewater treatment systems. But it's true that that is maybe easier to handle. So easier to have. Many places in the world just have a centralized system, big cities, but because it's too expensive to operate, at the end of the day, they don't operate it properly, and and the wastewater is not treated properly. So and then they discharge it and still have some contaminants. Contaminates. In the centralized system, there's also bad practices. I cannot say no. So, well, in other words, any system to protect the environment, if it's well managed, and there is enough
Mm.
funds for that, and the funds are used well without deviating them, without corruption practices, if they are properly used these funds and with practice, with good expertise, to any option centralized that's centralized are fine.
Okay.
Because also the centralized, it's true people think that the centralized is more eco-friendly, but it can be, but also if it's not well managed, it's going to contaminate as bad as the centralized system. Just the impact of centralized system contamination is going to be higher because of the high volumes.
Yeah, of
But
course.
the important is always it's maybe easier to manage well as the centralized system. The centralized system for sure has
Yeah.
challenges, and I would say less difficult because it still is difficult. But yes, I think it's
Yeah.
important is good management in all the cases.
Okay. On the other hand, what are some disadvantages of using a decentralized water system?
Well, as I was mentioning in my previous question,
Mm.
the it's challenging, can be challenging. There's many other bad
Right.
practices. There is many bad practices in centralized systems. For example, in many areas in pit latrines, what happens is when the pit latrine or septic tank is full, they come to empty it, and they just discharge the septage or the fecal sludge into the river, into a field, into the sea directly, um, hiding from the authorities. So sometimes
Mm.
many very bad practices that we try to avoid and we try to fight. So there's a lot of bad practices that can harm the environment for not well managed sanitation.
Yeah, that makes sense. And finally, are there any advancements that you've seen in decentralized water treatment or systems that you're excited about that are going to come up in the future?
Many, 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 many. There are many. That's
Okay.
a good point. So
Mm.
traditionally, decentralized systems, the most typical one is what's called septic tank or pit latrines. So it's basically your toilet is going to be linked to a tank or a pit. It can be flushed or not flushed if they are more dry basset systems. Um, that's the old system. So that's, as I told you, somebody has to, when it gets full, somebody has to come to empty it. And then the good practice is to send to a treatment plant and try to save disposal after treatment or even recycle and recover resources. That's a good practice, but also there are these bad practices, and that to dispose directly the waste into the environment after empty the the pits or the septic tanks. That's but nowadays that is the traditional system. But nowadays there have been efforts to create toilets that treat in situ your waste, and I'm very excited about that. There are many. I have been involved in some projects to investigate these technologies, to explore these technologies, and basically are like washing machines. So you just go to a toilet. So you can see that in the future, the toilet of the future will go. You go to the toilet, you do your pee or your poo, and then you press a button, and then that's going to send to be the waste is going to be sent to a back end system, like a small treatment system that is going to treat the waste in situ. So at the end of the day, your toilet is not needs to be connected to the sewage, and then the water that the flushing water that you're going to flush is going to be recycled from the system. So basically it's going to be like a mini wastewater treatment plant connected to your toilet. And I think that's very exciting and in point of view engineering is very, very, yes, it's very exciting.
Yeah, that seems so innovative. Maybe a bit expensive at first, but it seems like a very sustainable way to do it.
It is for the moment, but there's many of the research now, the technologies exist now, and I think now the research is going towards how to reduce the cost of that. So that the research is going to that direction.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing all that information with us. I'd like to now move on to our practices and habits segment, where I'd like to ask you, what is a habit that you would recommend practicing when it comes to sanitation in the home?
Well, I think one of the things is I mean, it's not easy because all the things are already set in the home organization. So, but if we make efforts, we can make some changes. And I think one of the more important change, I would say, is like try to use dirty water or gray water. What's gray water is the water that comes from, example, for washing. So try to take that water and use it for flushing, because you don't realize it, but in your toilet, you're using water that you could drink to discharge your feces or your pee. So that's something so I think one of the first things that we can do is just sometimes you can recover some like dirty water somewhere in the house. Just fill your tank for flushing, and that will be you're saving the use of precious drinking water, because basically you could drink from the toilet. You could drink that water. So it's like something that is not it's something that it's crazy to think about it, especially in some areas where they lack water. There are many places in the world that water is a scarce resource. Imagine for them thinking that in other places of the world they use water for liters of water, 4, 5, 6, 8 liters of water for flushing a toilet. So I think one of the practices that I can recommend is to try to find a dirty water and just use it for flushing.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it expensive to set up that system if your house doesn't already have it?
There are nowadays in the market. One thing is, the practice, either you can, there's many things in the market now that can help you to do that. There are, for example, toilets that are connected. The flush tank is connected to the hand washing station. So you wash your hands, and that water is going to be used for flushing. So it's like So this water is going to, nowadays in a normal toilet, you flush and then you wash your hands, but we're using using clean water in both cases. Here we will use clean water to wash your hands, which is important to use clean water in your hands, because after your hands can carry these pathogens and you can get sick. And then so it's important that water is clean, but it's not important that the flush water is so clean. So you can use that water for flushing.
Yeah, I recently saw one of these where it did that, and the basin or the sink was on top of the toilet, and I was like, that is such a good idea. Why have I not seen this before? That's perfect. So I hope that I see more of those in the future, because that seems like a really clever idea that should be used widely as much as possible.
But also sometimes you can recover some wash for somewhere, some dirty water
Yeah.
somewhere. Or for example, you can even have rainwater collection at home, and then you can use this water for flushing, because it's the water from rainwater. Uh, it's not as clean. I mean, it's not usually as standards for human consumption, but enough for flushing a toilet. So, for example, you can also consider these types of water. So you have to use for flushing is to use a water of lower grade quality, basically. Not because now we're using the water of highest quality for flushing. And something else also is change the toilet, because usually, especially if it's all pedestals, use a lot of water for flushing. And nowadays they have done a lot of innovations with the geometry of the to the suction that the toilets do. They have changed the geometry to use less water. So you also consider changing one of these. It's an investment. So at the beginning you will spend a little more money, but then in the future you will save. You have a return of investment, because in the future you want to save in your bill and your water bill.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic idea. So hopefully people can make that investment and eventually they will save. So I'd now like to move on, after hearing all that amazing advice, to our open mic segment. This is your chance to talk about anything you're passionate about. It doesn't even have to be related to the topic that we've talked about so far. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I want to talk a little bit related to the topic, and I would like to dig a little bit more in how I finish in my how I finish in sanitation, and how I finish in sanitation, and how this has translated in my daily life. So because it's a world that I didn't know that existed. So I think, as I told you before, I do engineering, and then from engineering, I finished in in chemical engineering, wastewater treatment, and then for life brought me to do a PhD in another topic. But that also found very interesting. That also maybe water and energy are my very favorite topics to work in. And I was working in biomass energy, like how to transform uh, biomass into biofuels. So in diesel, how to transform that into diesel or kerosene or other fuels that for cars, airplanes. There's a big process, a lot of research on that, how to transform that waste into liquid biofuel or gas biofuel. And so I went there in that area that I discovered. I didn't know that it existed, so I was so excited at the beginning. And then after, I said, okay, I had a background in wastewater treatment, but now I'm in the energy sector, in the bioenergy sector. I really love it, so I think I'm going to stay here. So I did a PhD there in that topic. After I make a postdoctorate in continue that topic. And then after that, I was living in France at that time, and I said, okay, I would like to. I have spent already like 10 years in France, and I don't know why I wanted to change of country. I was feeling like I wanted to explore a third country, and I want to go what's an exotic country. And I was always attracted to India, so I wanted to go maybe to India. I have been a big fan of Indian culture, a big fan of Indian culture. So I wanted to go to India, but it was quite difficult, quite tough to find opportunities there. Also Brazil, I really took me the attention of Brazil. A little closer to home, a little closer to my Mexican culture. Uh, so I really wanted to, and they have I also love Brazilian culture. Also, I found it like music, very happy. So I wanted to go to Brazil, and I have almost opportunity to go to Brazil. I was almost in the point to have an opportunity to go to Sao Paulo, and then and then the life made me, like very casual to meet somebody that was living in South Africa. And I said, and she told me about South Africa. And then when she told me about that, and she was working in a similar topic where I was searching the job in the biofuel works in the biofuel sector and bioenergy sector. So I maybe said she can help me to connect me with people in South Africa. She was French. I was still in France, but she was living in South Africa. So that she was working a very similar topic than me. So I said she's going to be perfect to connect me there. So yes, I don't know, but I found it super exotic South Africa with the I don't know. When I was one of the childhood dreams was to go to the savannah and see the animals. Always have been really interested by animal life, and I mean, in Africa for that is one of the best places. And so I was very excited, and she gave me a few contacts, and some didn't work. The ones when I was interested didn't really work at the beginning, and then there was another one that worked, but the topic of research was not very interesting. It was about coal research and development. So I was not very interested because I was going to work with fossil fuels. And after all this, I was more interested in renewable energy sustainability. So it was a little, but at the same time, it was an opportunity to go to South Africa. And then suddenly I remember that during my master course, I have a South African professor in my wastewater treatment. I had a project in wastewater treatment with him. And he was from South Africa, and he was invited for one semester for the master in France. So I said, oh, okay, I'm going to contact him. I have this idea, I remember, was in the afternoon. I'm going to contact him, maybe this opportunity in his laboratory. And yes, he told me that they were searching somebody. So when I contacted him, he answered me 2 minutes after I sent the email. And usually it's a guy that it's a very busy guy that receives thousands of mails every day. So he usually takes time to answer his email. But he responded me 2 minutes after. And he says that they were searching somebody for a postdoctorate with chemical engineering profile. So I was fitting perfectly. He knows me. And so after thinking well, because I have to say that the topic in coal was a little bit better pet than the one in the bursary in the sanitation topic was quite minimal from that university. University of KwaZulu-Natal was quite minimal. So I was thinking the other university was offering me a better salary, better conditions. So I was thinking between filling my heart or commodity of life. And I also, all my South African friends say, if you go to the other where you want, your bursary is going to be better. Otherwise, the other is quite short, quite minimal. It's going to be quite tight. The bursary related to the sanitation topic. So I was thinking, and I took my decision to follow my heart. And I was just in the toilet. I remember I was in the toilet and was thinking because I needed to give an answer. And yes, I would say that I took the decision to to go for the sanitation topic and not anymore for the coal one. So and yes, but it was completely a new area for me. There are topics that I never imagined that would work. I was working with filtration of urine, study the fluid mechanics of fecal matter, things that topics for me that were not time were very strange. Now are normal for me. Like yes, I'm studying the thermodynamics of properties of fecal matter. It's not for that moment. It was too strange for me that I have to say. And finally, I decided to go there. I decided to go there. Also, being in the toilet, I think I took it as a sign. When I took so it's a sign. I'm in the toilet taking the decision. I have to go by it for that.
I was thinking that, yeah.
And then after that, I landed there in Durban. Durban is a fantastic city. I was living in Durban, a fantastic city. and I learned a lot about sanitation. I was with Professor Chris Buckley, that's the person that I contact, that I had as a lecturer in my master in France. And he received it very well. He was a very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable and person in sanitation. And I learned with him a lot about this completely unknown world for me. At the beginning, it was a little difficult because I was coming from after 5 years of working in biomass, gasification, biomass, bioenergy, biofuels. I was a little different to change of topic, but also I took a little time to readjust. But I found it very interesting. I learned about sanitation. I didn't know about sanitation. I didn't know all these things that now I'm aware of, that to have a toilet at home is like a luxury. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't really aware of what happened with when I was happy. I didn't know that there was this decentralized system. So it was a completely new world. And I went to places. We were working out within local municipality. So we worked to informal settlements, and I saw pit latrines. And also I know about what was a septic tank. So I learned completely a lot of this topic, and also how technology can be pushed to try to solve this issue, or persons that this lack of sanitation in the world, how technology can be pushed there. I was many of my research was working with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, so we have a lot of also contact with people working with the foundation. Well, now it's Gates Foundation, but now with the Gates Foundation, and many other institutions in the world, UK, Crownfield, and the US, at Duke University, many universities. I can tell you many universities that have chance to collaborate and work with them and see what they were doing, and it was super exciting to all the systems that developed with many filters, many dehydration processes, pasteurization process inside a small box, or maybe a little bigger box, but that can receive the effluent from different houses, the wastewater, the black water from different houses. But it was for me, it was very impressive. And all that, so I was working with there was a lot of changes in the group. Changes, I start to be more and more confident in the area, learn more about it. And then I think that's one of the last year I have an unexpected opportunity to by contacts, by colleagues, by connections. I have the opportunity to work as a consultant with the IOM, the International Organization of Migration, and to work for a refugee camp in Bangladesh, the Rohingya camp. So
Wow.
I don't know if you have heard about the Rohingyas. The Rohingya are the people displaced from Myanmar, which is the country next to Bangladesh. So they are Muslim Basi people that from a special group ethnic that means a minority in the country. So they are minority ethnic and religious, whereas the rest of the country have a different group ethnic and they're more Buddhist. So actually extreme Buddhists. They didn't know that extreme Buddhism existed until that day. Until I learned this, and they have to be in the same country after colonization, so they really didn't like each other too much. Especially the majority didn't like this minority of Rohingya, and they tried to have a big there was attacks and everything against them, so they have to move to Bangladesh. They have to move to Bangladesh. So they put the highest refugee camp in the world. It was the largest refugee camp in the world with 3 million people. And so I had the opportunity to work there, which was a very interesting experience, a very amazing experience, and open eyed. So but I could see, it was sad to see how people were displaced from their places, So they have to live in the refugee camp. They cannot go out. So it was quite sad to see that, how they didn't have a place. So they found this place for them, but they didn't have like a home, or their home, they couldn't be anymore at their original home. So it was quite sad to see that. But at the same time, it was nice to see how much people wanted to help them. And there were many.
Yeah.
I'd never seen in my life so many UN agencies and NGOs and governmental, local Bangladeshi, also groups, institutions that try to help for them.
Yeah.
So I think it was a nice experience being in Bangladesh for a quite long period and working for that project. So it was quite good, nice experience.
Wow. Your journey just seems so amazing. Unfortunately, I am going to have to stop you there because we're running out of time for our podcast. But thank you for sharing all these beautiful experiences you've had that have led you to be able to do things that you're really interested in. And it was fantastic to hear about that contact in South Africa that just replied in 2 minutes. Like, that is just the perfect timing for you. And I'm so glad that you've been able to study things that you're interested in and learn so much from so many people. It sounds so fantastic. But I am going to have to conclude our episode here, unfortunately. If our listeners want to find out more about you and more about their work, where can they go to find that?
Well, I'm not a LinkedIn. I was a LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Great.
I don't have too much social. I'm not a very a social network person. So
that's okay.
I have Facebook, but I don't really pay too much attention to it. And I have LinkedIn that I don't update so much, but I try to update sometimes because I push myself because it's important for professional reasons. Also have a research gate. It's another for researchers, people that are working in R&D. They have this social platform that I also don't pay too much attention to it, but you can find my work there. You can find work there. You can find me in LinkedIn, but I always answer. So it's not because I'm not updating it, doesn't mean that I ignore it completely. So sometimes I see messages, I see my messages, I reply to the messages, and times to times I do updates. I'm not just all the time there, but I am there. So I think that's the best ways to, in a professional point of view, to contact me.
For sure.
And then Facebook also give you personal point of view. Also have a Facebook, but I really don't pay too much attention of it. But I can answer message times to times.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I'll definitely link your LinkedIn and our show notes so that people can find you there if they want to see any updates that you might put or reach out to you. But for now, we're going to have to conclude this episode. So thank you again so much for being on the show. We have learnt so much from you today, and I'm really pleased to have had you on the show. So thank you. To our audience, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
You've been listening to Room by Room, produced by the Home Organisation Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes like this from across 10 life management perspectives can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your smart devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it so we can grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at ho.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Gabriela Yastra. Thanks for tuning in.